Tonight on Presidential Perspectives, the student loan debt crisis. What do the 2020 candidates have to say about a financial nightmare plaguing millions of Americans? We'll find out. Good evening, I'm Alex Halade, and welcome to our first full-length episode of Presidential Perspectives. We're glad to have you here. Tonight, we're tackling an especially hefty $1.5 trillion issue that no doubt has crossed the mind of nearly every American pursuing higher education, the student loan debt crisis. However, before we shift focus to that subject, we want to give a quick look at the current state of the race. A Real Clear Politics polling composite covering data up to September 8th puts former Vice President Joe Biden in the lead amongst the Democratic candidates, with 29.8% of all support, and an 11.8% edge over Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is currently polling at 18%. Senator Bernie Sanders closely follows Warren with 17.7%, and Senator Kamala Harris is a distant fourth with 7%. South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg rounds out the top five with 4.3% at the moment. Other candidates over 1% include Andrew Yang, Senator Cory Booker, former Representative Beto O'Rourke, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, and Senator Amy Klobuchar, putting 10 Democratic candidates over the 1% threshold. Meanwhile, President Trump's job approval rating is reported as 39% according to a Gallup report based on polling done between August 15th and August 30th. Now on to the task at hand, the student loan debt crisis. According to an August 13th article from the Pew Research Center on 2018 data regarding student loan debt, about 30% of adults aged 18 to 29 say they have outstanding student loans from their education. While these numbers decrease as respondents get older, a shocking 22% of adults aged 30 to 44 claim that they too have student loan debt. With regard to the amounts that these individuals owe, the same report indicates that the median amounts owed nationally is $17,000. However, this value includes borrowers who have earned less than a bachelor's degree, for example, those who have pursued an associate's degree. When you isolate the values for those who have earned at least a bachelor's degree or postgraduate degree, you find that these numbers bump significantly to $25,000 and $45,000 respectively. However, one of the most sobering results from this report concerns how Americans value their education. 36% of Americans aged 25 to 39 with at least a bachelor's degree and outstanding student loan debt say that the financial cost of their degree outweighs its benefits. This number is compared to just 15% of Americans with a bachelor's degree who don't have student loan debt. Not only are these debts financially ruining many Americans, but they are simply not worth the reward they yield for the third of them. Now, shifting to the candidates. We want to start with South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg and his husband Chasten are reported by the Associated Press to have about $130,000 in student loan debt. Buttigieg has called for an expansion of the federal Pell Grant program, making it easier for Americans to refinance student loans in debt-free or tuition-free college at public universities for lower and middle-income families. While the issue is personal for Buttigieg, it has also provoked stances from many of the 2020 candidates. Senator Elizabeth Warren says she would entirely erase student loan debt for 75% of borrowers while making public colleges and universities free. She intends to pay for this with a tax on ultra-millionaires. Senator Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, also wants to make public universities tuition-free and wants to lower the student loan rates as well. Former Representative Beto O'Rourke takes a more conservative stance on the issue. He wants to wipe away loans for those pursuing careers with a labor shortage, but has yet to specify which jobs would be included. He also wants to give Americans 2 years of free tuition at community colleges and make four-year state universities debt-free for low-income individuals. Finally, like Sanders, O'Rourke also wants to allow borrowers to refinance loans at lower rates. Senator Kamala Harris has openly called for debt-free college while also advocating for lower interest rates on loans and simplified financial aid applications to make it easier for students to apply for help. While the Associated Press article only explicitly focused on these candidates' stances, Joe Biden, Andrew Yang, Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard, and Amy Klobuchar each outlined their own stances as well. Former Vice President and frontrunner Joe Biden has been relatively late to the game regarding his stance on student loan debt. A Forbes article details Biden's modest proposal to simplify the public service loan forgiveness program, but that's about it. While Biden has mentioned his support for free college in the past, he has not offered any detailed policy supporting this sentiment. Andrew Yang's campaign website outlines an extensive plan for student loan relief that most notably includes the proposal of a 10 by 10 Student Loan Emancipation Act. That is, the government would buy student loan debt and allow students to pay it back by paying 10% of their income for 10 years. Senator Booker has supported ideas aimed at allowing students to refinance college loans and simplifying the student loan process during his time as a senator, according to his campaign website. He recognizes the deterrent that the student loan crisis has become for individuals pursuing higher education. Meanwhile, Representative Gabbard has also taken a stance against student loan debt during her time as a congresswoman. Her page on the House of Representatives website features a video where she addresses the issue of women and student loans specifically. She has also, according to the page, supported numerous bills in Congress, including the College for All Act. According to an article from Forbes, Senator Klobuchar takes a relatively moderate stance on the student loan debt issue. She does not support widespread debt forgiveness, but does back the refinancing of existing loans at lower interest rates. The article also notes that Klobuchar is relatively clear on her stance with this issue, evidenced by her senatorial voting record. That rounds out the Democratic candidates, but now on to the issue in practice and President Trump's stance. President Trump has typically taken a stance similar to that of the more moderate Democratic candidates. As of late, the Associated Press reports him forgiving the student loans of all disabled veterans, approximately 50,000 Americans. However, it is worth noting that this was a decree to simplify a complicated existing process to relieve the debt of disabled veterans that was only successful in providing aid to half of those eligible. This practice of simplification has actually been a common course of action for the Trump administration regarding this issue. In March, Trump proposed a budget that would eliminate complications in the federal student loan debt forgiveness program, including the elimination of public service loan forgiveness program. The Trump administration has outlined its goal as being intent on lowering the cost of college as opposed to directly forgiving loans. Thus, Trump has taken a slightly more moderate stance on the issue, more akin to his fellow Republicans. That wraps up our analysis of the candidates, but how can this all be tied together? In essence, we can split these candidates up into three categories regarding their stances. In one group, you have the most liberal stances. These are the candidates that have openly advocated for free college and widespread student loan forgiveness. Candidates such as Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders fit best in this category. Meanwhile, in another category, you get the more semi-moderate stances, which involve and focus on lowering the cost of college or debt-free college, the prison of student loan forgiveness in specific situations, and ease payback programs. Candidates in this category include Andrew Yang, Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, Tulsi Gabbard, Cory Booker, and Kamala Harris. And finally, a few candidates fall into the more moderate category. These candidates focus on the lowering of the cost of college, ease debt payback, and lowered loan rates, as well as the simplification of the application process for financial aid and student loan forgiveness. These candidates include President Trump, Amy Klobuchar, and Joe Biden. That pretty much ties it all together. These candidates have each proposed their own solutions that range over a spectrum of more to less widespread aid. However, one thing I will encourage you to do after each episode is to do some of your own research and really dive into these issues. We've included the sources used in the preparation of this episode in the credits and below in the caption for that very reason. We can't cover every aspect of every candidate, even on one specific issue, in only 10 to 15 minutes, and poll data in particular is always subject to change, even between the filming and release of this program. The goal of this program is to encourage discussion and immersion in our electoral process, not to act as a roadmap to 2020. And with that sentiment, I conclude our broadcast for tonight. We'll be back here again next month on October 17th for our second episode. In the meantime, from all of us here at Presidential Perspectives and D3 TV, thank you for tuning in and good night.